इसको बुलाया तो हम लोग उनका टाइम उनका एफर्ट बहुत ज़्यादा है इसके पीछे और ये बनाने में भी बहुत है और ये हम लोग को बहुत फायदा होता है। अगर आप कोई भी कॉम्पिटिटिव या कोचेस का ट्रेनिंग या ये करने जाएंगे तो आपको बहुत यूजफुल रहेगा। फीवा करने जाओ या आप किधर भी जाओ, हम लोग को फीवा ये चीज़ था क्योंकि जब सर कवर किया था आधा से ऊपर वाली चीज़ें उसके अंदर थी, ठीक है, तो हम लोग वो सब रखा था। तो आपको काम आएगा जब आप कोई ट्रेनिंग करने जाओगे तो ये करने जाओगे। और दूसरा एक चीज़ है कि आप नोट डाउन करो, क्योंकि ये तो स्लाइड में आपको शेयर करेगा, इसका पिक्चर लेने का जरूरत नहीं है। ये स्लाइड में आपको ईमेल में ड्राइव पे शेयर कर देगा, ठीक है। पर आपको जो समझ में आ रहा है, आपको जो लगता है कि आप जो करते हो अगर आप इससे रिलेट कर पा रहे हो तो आप नोट्स बनाओ उसका अपने लैंग्वेज में, ताकि आप देख सके और फोकस करें। और दूसरा एक चीज़ था कि कल हम लोग सेशन के टाइम में बहुत इधर उधर बहुत सारी चीज़ों में बिजी था, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए। इवन मैं भी ऐसे ही कि उधर का चीज़ें इधर का चीज़ें देख रहे हम लोग, क्योंकि जो बोल रहे हैं वो सब हम लोग नहीं सुन पाते। मेनली तो वही है, कर तो रहे हैं, वो तो दिख भी रहा है या जो भी है, बट जो बोलते हैं वो तो नहीं ध्यान दे पा रहे हैं। तो जितना हो सके वो ध्यान देके तो हम लोग वो सेशन में इन्वॉल्व ज़्यादा होना चाहिए। कौन सा जो प्रैक्टिकल सेशन होते हैं जहाँ पे हम लोग को भी पता चले कि क्या हो रहा है। और सबसे ज़्यादा तो जो टीम लेके जाना है उनको तो साथ में रह के करवाना चाहिए, ठीक है। और दूसरा जो है, क्योंकि अगर आप कुछ और सिखाओगे तो कोई मतलब नहीं बनता, जब फिर कोई और बच्चे लोग के साथ कर सकते हैं, ठीक है। तो वो है, तो बाकी चीज़ें साइड में रख दो, फोन वगैरह जो भी आता है आपका जो भी काम है, जैसे कि आप लोग बीच में रखे थे टिकट नहीं करना है, बाद में करते हैं, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, ठीक है। एक दिन बाद जाएगा या रात को हम लोग करना है, तो जो सेशन है वो होने के बाद हम लोग बाकी चीज़ें, ठीक है।
Morning guys, how are you doing? Pretty good. Are you still tired from yesterday or recovered? All good? Great, great. First, before we start with today's session, any thoughts, any questions from yesterday? From the session, from the morning session, from the afternoon session on the court? What are your thoughts? Or any questions? Have you got anything to ask?
How did you decide that thing, what you executed yesterday? So
The plan?
Yeah. Because you mentioned you were focusing on one thing, you do only one drill. See, that was maybe a tactical thing. So have you planned it before? What was the thing?
Yeah, so when I spoke with Kevin last week, when was that, and he told me the plan that it's gonna be a selected team that they're gonna go and play a tournament in next month. So just try to do something to prepare them for the games. That's why obviously they're under 16, right? So in this case, if I had this team to work throughout the year, I will make a combination of things. I will do, because they are still learning and developing the basic skills, shooting, dribbling, passing, and other skills, I will do a mixer session. So I will do maybe one part, the first part of the session, a little bit more dribbling, shooting, and stuff like that, and then I will transition to more about fast break situations, and then tacticals, how we can play like a motion offense like this. But now, obviously, to have only 2-3 sessions, I focus more on to a little bit transition because you play a lot of fast breaks as well, and in these leagues or with the level that you play, they run a lot. So I wanted to prepare them a little bit on how they run the lanes properly. 3-on-2, 2 versus 1 yesterday, we're going to 3 versus 2 today, and then into 5-on-5 or 4 versus 4. So, and then because I know to play 5-on-5, I unfolded it back, so I broke down and started from 3. So I remember the triangle drill. So started with 3. I can even break it even more back and do it from 2, which we did when I visited in April. We did the one from the top, dribble on the right, pass to the corner, and then that player on the corner had to decide if they dribble baseline, the other player moves the opposite. If the attack middle, the move opposite. So it's all about spacing, rotations, and repositioning and balancing the floor. But I started yesterday with 3 players, and then 4th, and then introduced the 5th player. So I planned it, since last week. I just had a thought how I want the sessions to go, and then I broke it back into small steps, and I started from there. obviously this, in my eyes, with the group, sometimes you don't know what to choose because they need to develop everything. Yeah. So, and then as a coach, I need to prioritize how I can prepare them or how I can show the coaches that you work with them or whoever works with them to give like a guidance how to prepare them for those games or for let's say competition season. Because their aim is to compete and start winning on it from 16 and above. Yeah.
समझा क्या बोले कि बहुत सारी चीजें सिखाना है पर सब चीजें एक साथ तो नहीं सिखा सकते बट कुछ कुछ चीजें हमने लिया है कि ये कंपटीशन के लिए ये चीजें हम लोग ध्यान देंगे और वो चीजें प्लान करके एग्जीक्यूट करते हैं हो सकता है कि उसका एंड नहीं होगा बट आप वो प्रोसेस है वो चलते रहेगा तो डेवलप होते रहेगा फिर आप स्टेप प्रिंसिपल अप्लाई करके कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी बढ़ाते रहोगे राइट ऐसा नहीं कि करो ये इतना में खत्म हो गया नहीं ये बढ़ते रहे अभी समझो ये जो पासिंग था maybe this will run for a week right
For
maybe
months,
or maybe 3
for
a month
yeah.
or it will repeat after थोड़ा टाइम के बाद like it will keep on repeating तो it depends कि आप कैसे कितना आपका टाइम है और कितना आपका प्लान कितना दिन का करना है तो उसके हिसाब maybe you run 3 days of passing and then 3 days you will run defense and 3 days you run transition and then might be you back on passing again या ऐसा हो सकता है कल का फोकस पासिंग का
सर वो ये था स्पेसिंग
स्पेसिंग होगा तो अच्छा पासिंग होगा
सो
Passing
passing game था so their doubt was like it was more of so they were confused with like it was just passing or it was slow pacing
No passing like but to develop passing, but passing game means in a game situation how you
team passing
position.
basically
Yeah.
So basically they are getting confused in beginner and intermediate type of planning.
Yeah, so this is not, that session yesterday wasn't for beginners. Okay?
it was
In
team
beginner,
Yeah.
we are focusing on one skill. In intermediate, we can combine.
You can blend, yeah. So yesterday was a preparation as a team. So this level, this training can apply to men's level as well. You can do it in senior level. Depends on the complete. If there are seniors, I do things like that or parts of that even with my team. When I see players struggling, don't know where to position themselves based on how the ball moves, it doesn't matter. So if they can't do it, even if they're 27, 28 years old, I need to go and teach them because we can't play. You can't move. I learned these things when I was 19, too late. If I had a coach to teach me spacing and timing and all that kind of stuff when I was 14, maybe I would have done a different career. Yeah? Alongside with the basic skills. From 14 and onwards, especially if you work from 8 years old, the basic fundamentals, you can start teaching them parts of this offense. Because it's not like a heavily tactically, it's about how you position yourself and reposition yourself based on the ball. Where is the ball, where is the defender, and then that's the most difficult thing in basketball.
court awareness
And read the defense. A lot of coaches say, okay, yeah, read and react. That read and react is not easy. It's the most difficult thing in basketball, it's simple, but it's the most difficult thing because it requires very good awareness. Yeah? And it's not just you, it's about team awareness as well. So how, if you move, and then the other sees you move, how they're going to react, and then is it like a chain effect with the other 4 players? Yeah, because yesterday some girls, or even boys, one saw something on the defense maybe, or sometimes they didn't, they just decided to cut because whatever, yeah? But one cut, the other cut because they decided that that's what I want to do. When they get into this process and play, and you corrected them, then they will start reading that, oh, my teammate cut, so I don't have to cut. I need to replace that position or fill the gaps and spread out the court. But that needs, it can't happen in 1 day or 2 sessions. Yeah, this needs training. And never will occur. But even if yesterday you saw, especially with a good example, the last offense with the girls, they didn't have the best spacing. They messed up on one side, but because they moved the ball and they had an open shot from the other corner. Because they moved the ball from one side to the other side, even with not the best spacing that they would have. It was an open shot, so it's good. So this will happen. Yeah, error will, yeah, you know, even in the elite level, yeah, part of, I don't know. Some teams, they do this to perfection, but this, to be able to do that, they've spent so many hours on the court and for years to be able to do that. It's not an easy thing. So it will come, but if you carry on insist, work, it will come, and they will get better. So
दो चीज़ में ये कंफ्यूज मत हो कि इंडिविजुअल चीज एक था जो बिगनर में कर रहे थे तो पासिंग आप बेसिक फंडामेंटल्स के थे, अभी ये टीम फंडामेंटल्स के ऊपर है, ये टीम बिल्डिंग के ऊपर चालू है। तो कल जो हम लोग कर रहे थे स्पेसिंग रिपोर्टिंग पासिंग के रिलेटेड है, बट ये सब चीजें करेंगे तो अच्छा आपका टीम पासिंग और मूवमेंट और वो सब डिसाइड करते हैं।
And then at the beginning, if you saw yesterday, I was changing the direction. So what I said is now I want this player to attack there and the ball goes there. That doesn't mean that that's the only option. What I want is, if I leave it free to them, it's going to be chaos. They won't understand what's happening. Because if I do it scribed, like prescribed if you want, they will start learning the options. So prescribe the options, work this for 10 minutes, one option 10 minutes, rep. Maybe on one session you can use 2 or 3 different options. And the next session, do that as a warm-up maybe, and then add another 2 options the day after, and then because this offense has like, the options are, you know, combinations might be 20, 30. So, and then when they learn on this and they practice, it will come automatically. And if you work this for years as well. And that's the most difficult offense to play because to defend, because you don't know what's going to happen. Everything can happen. How are you going to see, okay, when we higher level, you can do scouting and say, oh, they play this, how would I defend it? You can't defend it. You can defend screens, you can defend that, but the only thing to say is like stay in front of your player, you play 1 versus 1. But if you have someone good to create something, and then as a coach you can later on target that player because he's one very good one-to-one player. Target this, create, throw something, and then the defense will adjust. So then just find the option. And then yeah, some people, that's all the teams. If you see Serbia playing in the Olympic Games, or they say, oh, play wow. The most simple thing, simple is greatness. Yeah, they play this motion like. Obviously they use screens and stuff like that, but they know after that they target players. They set up players specific corners in specific positions, and they have, let's say, Bogdanovic who is good to draw something, pass outside, or maybe have. But the good thing with those teams is that they have 4 good shooters. So someone will find an open shot. So that happens. Our Warriors how to play. Yeah. So, but this is, you know, you start building it from here. And because all those kids, you don't know, in 2 years' time, some of them might be good shooters, they might be good, they're still developing. Try all of them to rotate them, to play all the positions as well, so they can get familiar with the movement. And as soon as they build that awareness of spreading out the court, you see the boys, they're a little bit more outside, the girls were going inside. It's normal because now the body's not developed yet, and they don't feel confident to throw the ball, to shoot the ball from a 3-point line. That's why they go inside. But that doesn't help. Okay, it doesn't help because you reduce the spacing and then they don't have an open shot. It's better to stay outside, even if you don't shoot the 3-point shot.
Fake it and then
All the kids now they will run on the 3-point line. If you do this, they will run. And
डिफेंस भागेगा तो
then
फिर आप
they can
एक ट्रिपल 2 ट्रिपल डाल के शॉट भी डाल सकते हो या तो ड्राइविंग का लेन ऊपर है।
And then, as coaches now, even like under 16, under 18s, you feel that you have some players that a little bit, they can shoot the ball from 3-point line. Try to make them either corners or wings, because from that side, if you have someone that cuts well, put them in the wing. If you have someone who's a good shooter, put them on the corners and ask them to be ready to shoot the ball. And then I guarantee that they will have 6, 7, or 10, even more open shots per game. If they can score 3, 4 of them, it's fine, because that 4 threes, they're gonna create a lot of gaps inside there. So, and then there are more things that you can do with big players, so they can screen and roll a little bit and do things like that. This is how it goes. I saw yesterday for the boys team, two boys we can introduce some screens as well as an alternative option.
they
So
are
maybe
tall and strong.
maybe that's for tomorrow, because I'm planning for tomorrow to do a little bit of zone offense against zone defense, because you told me that they play zone offense sometimes. So to have an alternative.
सामने वाला जोन खेलते हैं तो थोड़ा जोन का ऑप्शंस भी एक्सप्लोर करने के लिए
To give you some ideas how you can break
इसी जोन में वही है कि you have a lot of shooting options. So वही बोल रहे थे कि कॉर्नर्स में अच्छा शूटर्स रहेंगे, विंग्स में भी उसके बाद वाला शूटर्स, ताकि क्या है कि जब शूटिंग करने लगेगा तो आपको वो डिफेंस को पुल करते हैं तो you will get open spaces अंदर.
Okay. Anything else from yesterday? All clear?
So वो क्लियर हो गया ना कि हमने 2-3 ऑप्शंस उनके साथ ट्राई किए हैं ऑफेंस में, बट ऐसा नहीं कि वही 2-3 ऑप्शंस यूज करना है. आप 2-3 ऑप्शन सिखा रहे हो, शायद और 2-3 और थोड़ा ऑप्शंस आप सिखाओगे, बट देन दे विल फिगर आउट कि वो लोग कैसे रन करना है. वो लोग भी नए ऑप्शंस करेंगे क्योंकि डिफेंस के हिसाब से उनको भी रिएक्ट करने को सिखाएंगे, सीख जाते हैं.
Another thing I emphasized yesterday, I don't know if you mentioned, was turnovers. So I stopped a lot of times even from the warm-up, and I stopped them and I asked them, just you turn the ball over with no defense. So turnovers is one. So if 3 things, based on research, 3 things determine which things are successful and which things are not successful based on research, is even in high research happening at high level anyway. So it's one is turnovers, the second is assists, and the third is rebounds. Okay, those 3 things. Teams that they have those 3 things, low turnovers, big assists, big rebounding, okay, defensive rebounds, secure defensive rebounds, most of the times win or are successful in long run.
अभी अगर देखेंगे तो गोल्डन स्टेट पहला पोजीशन पे, ये 3 में से एक है. Like Golden State is number 1, and one of them is in this. वो लोग 30 plus assists per game.
So
30 plus assists per game.
Obviously,
Team assists.
those 3, let's say, categories of statistics, they have a lot of things involving a lot of things in there. So maybe like rebounding, stuff like that, box out, other things. Assist is based on good spacing, good time, good passing movement. Okay, because how can you make assist if you don't have good passing movement? Okay, in passing game and make good passes and make the defense run. Okay, it might happen. You might, with another way, you might have 1 or 2 random games that you play against a team that is very poor pick and roll defense, and you target the pick and roll and you're killing them from that. But that might happen in a few games per season. But in the longer run, in the long term, over a season or over seasons, so teams that they have good passing game and they can play well as a defense or as an offense, sorry, as a team to pass the ball, extra pass, keep moving from one side to the other side, and have good options, have more assists. Okay.
कोई चीज़ है जो बोल रहे हैं कि जैसे पिक एंड रोल लंबे हैं या पिक एंड रोल करके उनको सक्सेस मिल रहा है, वो शॉर्ट कोई टीम्स के साथ शॉर्ट टर्म ही है. वो कंटिन्यूस प्रोसेस क्या होता है जब पूरा टीम इन्वॉल्व है रोटेशन. इसके लिए बोल रहे हैं कि लंबे प्लेयर को खाली अंदर मत खेलो क्योंकि वो लंबा नहीं है, वो लंबा अभी आपके टीम में रहेगा, बट सामने वाला टीम अगर आपको तो उसको सब पोजीशन खेलो.
And then yesterday, turnovers. One is the unforced turnovers that you did, like silly bad passes and stuff like that. But the other turnover you can occur in a game situation is if you have bad positioning, okay, and you don't, players are not in the position that it should be, or someone doesn't kick the ball out on the right timing and the defense is there and turn the ball over. So that's what I mean. So turnovers. So yesterday, some silly turnovers, I stopped and corrected them. So I emphasize that with good spacing, good passing game. Again, you kind of reduce the number of turnovers that they will do in the game. Okay, so those are around the turnovers yesterday, the emphasis. And then in terms of rebounding, so today we're going to speak about box out, rebound, and also defense. So rotations. If you do good rotations and you play better defense, you might steal some balls, but what you're doing is that, or deflections, you're reducing the effectiveness of the offense. That means that if you play a stronger defense, you might not steal the ball all the time, you might not deflect the balls all the time, but if you are there with the hands up, they are less likely to score the basketball, okay, over a good defense. That means that we're gonna have more chances to get a defensive rebound. And then with box out and rebound, you will get more rebounds. Okay, that means that the second factor now, rebounding and securing the defensive rebounds, you know, we're more likely to get more. Okay, does it make sense? Yeah. And then
तो कल का emphasis का आपको clear हो कि passing में focus था, team passing में, and emphasis किया कि आप turnovers कम कर सकते हो, ठीक है, और good spacing, क्योंकि एक साथ कट करके आ रहे थे, बॉल दे रहे थे तो क्या हो रहा था कि बॉल पकड़ेगा तो भी कुछ कर नहीं पा रहे थे, ऊपर जाने का भी जगह नहीं, good space, तो ये चीजों पे ध्यान दिया, तो ऐसा वो focus था पूरा session में.
you see now how everything that we did applies to those things, because in my mind when I play games I want to have low turnovers, high rebounds, high assists. But everything we do, you know, contributes to those three factors. Okay? So and that's a process.
जो भी आप करोगे, अच्छा डिफेंस करोगे, डिफेंसिव रिबाउंड ज्यादा मिलने का चांसेस है. तो हमेशा गेम में ये तीन चीजें सोच के चल कि ये तीन चीजें चाहिए. अभी उसके लिए क्या करना है? अच्छा डिफेंस खेलेगा तो अच्छा रिबाउंड है, स्पेसिंग अच्छा रहेगा, टर्नओवर्स कम होगा, राइट? ऐसा पोजीशनिंग भी चाहिए, क्योंकि जिस पोजीशन में मैन चाहिए उस पोजीशन में कोई रहेगा नहीं तो पास नहीं.
Okay, so
तो उल्टा काम करते हैं.
going to today's session. So today we're going to speak about skill acquisition and motor learning. So for me, that cleared the picture when I was starting coaching. So that helped me a lot to understand what to do in what age. Because when I finished my career as a player. Sometimes after 15 years, I forgot where I started. I forgot my first steps. I had an understanding from memory or from experience, but I couldn't understand what I was actually doing. Or when I told you yesterday that I spent time with a lot of coaches from 14 years old when I started playing basketball until when I became a professional, I didn't understand what I was doing back then as a kid, okay, or what I should have done. That's why I told you that some coaches, if they knew what they were doing back then, I would have become a better player, okay? And that's based on this. I realized when I started this, I realized that when I was 14 years old, my coach did the wrong things with me, okay? Because I couldn't bounce the ball, and the first thing they were starting teaching me was plays, tactics, okay?
समझे अभी क्या बोल रहे हैं? कि जब खेलते थे तभी जो 13-14 साल में जब खेलते थे तब उनको समझ में नहीं आ रहा था कि मैं सही कर रहे हैं क्या गलत कर रहे हैं, कुछ जो कोच बता रहा है वो कर रहे हैं. बट जब बड़े हो गए और ये सब पढ़ने लग गए, सीखने लग गए, तब पता चला कि वो कोच जब मेरे को सिखाया था उसने मेरे को सही से नहीं सिखाया. मैं सही से सिखाया तो मैं और अच्छा प्लेयर बन सकता, बट वो बाद में मालूम पड़ा. तो आपको ये पता है कि अगर सही टाइम पे सही चीजें सिखाएगा तो वो प्लेयर अच्छा लेवल पे पहुंच सकता.
Okay, this hopefully will make you understand today, okay, about the process. So what do you mean by skill acquisition principles and motor learning techniques? So also we're going to focus on basketball drills to make you understand better, okay? Because this theory is not just basketball, it's like it's coaching, it's teaching, it's learning. It applies to academics, to other areas as well, it's not just for sports, okay? And then adapt those drills to match, players' learning stages. So, and then obviously we're going to try to learn and apply information processing strategies. I talked yesterday about information, receiving, processing information. We said yesterday that because of the age of the learners, it's better to don't overload them with information. Today you will see why. And then how that contributes and supports the decision making and reaction during the game situations or during a stimuli or a game scenario that will happen during the game or the training. Okay?
समझे? तो बहुत सारा इंफॉर्मेशन देके ओवरलोड नहीं करना चाहिए. धीरे धीरे एक दो चीज बता के आगे बढ़ना चाहिए, राइट? तो आपको समझेगा कि क्यों ऐसा करना है और कैसे.
Okay, so So as a definition, okay, skill acquisition is the process by which players develop the capacity to perform complex motor skills through practice and feedback. If we break this down, okay, so process, okay, it's a process, it's a circle, okay, that helps the players or the learners to develop the capacity, so their ability, okay, to perform complex motor skills, okay, so to deliver and perform motor skills, which means like could be basic movements, but with the basketball, okay, through practice, through training, repetition, and feedback, your feedback, what you are telling them, or how you're correcting them all the time. And also that's the external feedback. Then you'll see that there is an internal feedback that depending on their states, they are more likely or less likely to give feedback to themselves as well. Okay, now, if I go and start doing shooting, now after 20 years, if I miss a shot, I know why I missed that shot. I understand. Okay? When I was 14 years old, I didn't know. I couldn't understand. Okay? And that's the difference.
समझा क्या? मिसा खेलने के बाद मेरे को मालूम है कि शॉट मिस हो रहा है तो क्यों मिस हो रहा है। पर जब मैं छोटा रहेगा तो मैं शॉट हराने थोड़ी मैं समझ पाता हूँ कि क्या गलती की है मैंने। Right? तो वो difference.
Okay, and that's the whole process. It's about to build that muscle memory. Okay, and through repetition and through feedback and through experience. That's the process. Okay. Again, the second definition is skill acquisition is the process of learning and developing new skills. That's a simple definition. Okay. Why it is important? Research shows that structured practice improves foundational skills and sets base for long-term development. Okay, so with structured, not random practice, not random training, with structured, targeted training, the foundational skills and sets. Okay, foundational skills might be the basic fundamentals. Sets in translation might be a little more complex, a little more tactical based and technical based situations. Okay, and it's a set of it's the foundation for long-term development. Builds all the foundational skills, foster confidence. Okay, so low skill set, less confident because the skill is not there. The higher the skills you become, okay, more skillful you become, more confident. Okay? And that in long term, supports and ensures long-term development. The stages of learning are the cognitive states, the associative states, the autonomous states. Okay, and this is based on the Fitz and Posner's model, which founded in 1967. It's like a long time ago. Okay, these states help us understand how players progress and allow us to match our coaching to each other, to each player's current level. Okay, so understanding those stages, which we're going to find what each one of those mean in the future in the next slides, will help us understand how players progress from stage to stage, and this will help us adjust our coaching based on the learner's level. Okay. So the first, in fact, let me see here. So the thing is, I would ask you here, sorry, I forgot. Remember yourself when you started learning something new, okay? Do you remember an experience when you learned a skill, and how you can relate this to those stages, okay? Might be basketball, might be anything else. So remember, when you learn, even when you learn writing, okay? At the beginning, how did you find that? Were you able to write sentences? No. First you start learning the alphabet, letters, okay? And then start forming words, okay? But then you do a lot of errors at the beginning.
Before that, standing lines, sitting lines.
Yeah.
And then we used to have that 3 lines and then you could follow them.
Exactly. So, and this took time, okay? It's exactly the same thing. Think about starting to learn how to shoot. All the kids, what they're doing first is throw the ball with both hands. Okay? It's the basic skill because the first thing they learn when they do throwing. Throw cuts. That's the basic things that and you can do them from babies. Even with softballs or something like that, they just try to do it. Or even if they try to how to walk. Okay, they start first crawling, then standing, balancing, and then try to walk 2 steps and then fell off. That's it. It's exact everything we do, everything we learn. It's exactly the same process. Okay. So the first cognitive stage. Okay. So this stage involves understanding of the basic mechanics of a skill. So first step. So as you can imagine, this is the first stage. Cognitive stage is the first stage. Okay. So high levels of conscious thought. Okay. They're thinking a lot. They push themselves to think consciously. Okay. Frequent errors, a lot of errors occur, and slow execution. They can't do something quick because when they do something faster, the errors are even higher. Okay, and a lot of thinking. Think what to do. I'm constantly thinking. Oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Nothing is unconscious. Everything involves a lot of thinking.
Example
Yeah.
बोल सकते हो कल का drill में इसमें क्या हुआ?
So
इसमें example.
yeah, as an example.
Yesterday also it happened.
Yeah, yesterday a lot of them.
If you can, आप लोग relate कर सकते हो किधर हुआ था?
वो गर्ल्स के सिचुएशन में हुआ था कि वो लोग को सोच रही कि ड्राइव करूँ या पास करूँ शॉर्ट के लिए उनको
Confuse
क्योंकि फर्स्ट टाइम था और फिर कहाँ जाना है उसमें पोजीशन का वो लोग
ठीक है। बॉयज का 3 मैन पासिंग में हुआ था पता है?
हाँ,
बहुत बार हुआ था। फिर क्या ब्रेक डाउन किया था फिर? लाइक स्पीड में जा रहे तो एरर्स बहुत बढ़ रहा।
And a lot of inconsistency in these states. A lot of inconsistency. You're gonna give them an information. Okay, they're gonna think a lot about what to do, how to perform it. Okay, they're gonna have a lot of errors. Let's say you start doing shooting. You're gonna teach them 100 times how to do the form. They might do it 1 or twice, but out of 10, 8 times will be off. Will be a lot of errors. Okay, they're gonna do it slow. They won't. If you ask them to do it faster, they're gonna just do it. Even more errors will occur. So that's why with this it requires a lot. We're gonna see the next slide what to do. Okay, it's a lot of feedback, a lot of correction. Okay, the example basketball here might be one. A lot of kids doing 3-4 steps to do a layup or whatever. Yeah, as an example. To enhance this stage, an instructor, okay, you as coaches must first present a good description. Okay, so you need good demonstration. You need to and try to use different ways because some kids learn by listening, some kids learn by seeing, and then some other things they want to actually do it. Okay, more practical. So try. Obviously, you won't have every time the time to do everything, but within the circle of training, because you do the same, you teach the same skills multiple times, week in, week out. Try when you demonstrate or when you teach or when you give feedback to kids, try to use all of the 3. So talk, show, and ask them physically to practice it and do it. Okay? And then by using all those teaching techniques, you cover all the range of different learners that you will have in the group. Okay? And then use demonstration, verbal cues, information by talking and aid understanding, to aid understanding. Okay? So, associated now, good definition. Skill execution becomes smoother. Now we finished that stage that it was very inconsistent and very unstable. So now they can do the movement smoother, with fewer errors, less errors now, okay? And increase awareness, form the technique, okay? Now they start understanding a little bit, okay? So that characteristics improves accuracy, so a little bit better accuracy now in everything that they do it a little bit better, more effective, okay? They are more coordinated, which again, coordination, smoothness, okay? And then that helps them be a little bit more confident as well, yeah? Okay, so as an example, in shooting, a player focusing on, start doing like better arcs in shooting and follow through, and aim to improve consistency. They're a little bit more consistent now. Okay, again, not out of 10, might now be around 5 and 6. Okay, And then some evidence-based coaching teams, the performers might be given the opportunity to perform without excessive guidance. So now ask them, let them, so give them the information and let them learn through try and error. So because now you can start understanding a little bit more of what they do, or kind of deliberately let them do some errors and then ask them a question: what did you do wrong? What you would have done differently to make it effective? Why did this happen? And then in the previous stage, they won't be able to give you an answer if you ask them this, because they can't understand. In this stage, they start understanding what they do wrong. Okay? They're not in a position yet to correct it on themselves effectively, but they start understanding. Okay? So they're able to evaluate, okay, their own performance, their own errors. So, but not too complicated and too many things at the same time effectively. Okay? Maybe when they pass the ball wrong, they will let you know afterwards why this error occurred. They will start understanding. Okay? And attempt to correct their own mistakes. They will try next time to do it correctly, because if they start understanding, they will try to do it. And again, not very consistently at the moment, but more consistently than the previous stage. Okay? And then to incorporate constructive feedback and gradual progression to refine skills. So now maybe less feedback than cognitive, more feedback, associative, less feedback, but again, you need to stop them and correct them, okay? In order to progress and refine the skills. Okay? Good. And then the last stage is the autonomous stage. So the skill becomes automatic. Now there is that, maybe this is more like senior elite level, okay? Allowing to focus on strategy and multitasking now. Okay? Now they can process more complex stuff and information and mix information. Okay? Now it's more smooth, everything, consistent movements, minimal conscious thought, everything comes automatically. Okay? So get the ball, cuts and shots. So now you don't think how you cut the ball, everything is on your mind. It comes like you've built that muscle memory and it goes automatically. Okay? And you are able to adapt in dynamic situations. Okay, so that's what I said before, when you teach them that kind of passing game and movement, now they're thinking a lot. If you do it for years, that will become automatically. You know how to move based on the ball. You will still do some mistakes, even in top level, or even in this stage, but they are significantly less. Okay, as an example, a player dribbles while scanning the court and exposing defenders. So you can imagine, like yesterday, I saw to one boy that you missed that nice pass because you turned, you didn't look, but that's because he's not confident to have good dribbling. He was a little bit taller than others. He's not a good ball handler. So what he did was, when he got the ball, he turned back, and then because he knew from behind, I said that the pass in the corner, he wasn't able to respond. Okay, to adapt in dynamic situation. In dynamic situation there, imagine that if we didn't have defenders, he would do this, pass the ball in the corner, the player would have been in the corner with no defender. But now what happened is a dynamic scenario. So that player read that his player over denied, and tried to attack and cut, which was open. But the other player, because he missed that, he wasn't able to be able to protect and dribble the ball with his eyes up to scan the court. He missed that pass. That's a very good example of adapting in dynamic situations, and because he wasn't ready to scan the court and respond to defenders. Okay? If he was at this level, he would be able to do that. Okay? But that needs training, practice. Okay?
और कौन किया था
So once
जो डिफेंडर्स को याद नहीं
one cut किया था,
वो अंदर आ गया था और वो 3 पॉइंट पे
Okay.
तो इसके लिए बोल रहा है कि उधर ध्यान देना तो इधर थोड़ा रिलेट कर सकते हैं.
So and even in this level, so evidence-based coaching teams, skilled performance requires continuous practice, settings to achieve further improvement. Okay, you can still improve, Okay? Always there's a room for improvement. Use of random practice under match conditions is very challenging and rewarding for performance in this stage. So in this stage, you need to create scenarios and complex scenarios, okay, to boost even further learning with that, okay? So you can do it random. And cognitive states, more structured, more targeted, more prescribed, here more random, okay? Because they are able to give internal feedback and adjust better and quicker to different stimuli and different dynamic situations, okay? That's why if you prepare training sessions, for this level, you can do more random scenarios. So yeah, just see how you're gonna react and how you're gonna adjust and adapt, okay? And that helps even more. Okay, as I said, like game-like scenarios to encourage decision making and adaptability. This read and react. Okay. So now we're gonna watch a video that explains the 3 stages.
ये 3 stages से गुजरता है.
Oh, sorry.
3 stages से गुजरता है.
Let me see.
पहला stage वो था cognitive था, दूसरा associative, तीसरा autonomous. कि अपने आप से आता है, but mistakes होगा ऐसा नहीं होगा, but बहुत कम. but पता है क्या होगा, क्यों होगा.
I hope you can hear it. I don't know.
Now, let's be real for a
Is that audible? Yeah. No, it's not from the telly, it's from my laptop. That's right. The other comes from here. I have it on full, but.
No, you can play this.
Even if you aren't as uncoordinated as I am, I'm sure you still know how difficult learning a new sport can be. And becoming really good at a sport is even harder. To go from being a rookie to playing professionally is a long process that requires heaps of practice, a bit of feedback, and tons of motivation. Today, we're going to take a look at that lengthy process, breaking it down into the 3 key stages of learning, a framework devised by a couple of lads called Prince and Posner. in game-like situations or a sequence with additional skills like passing. Repetitive practice creates this synchronization between the brain and the body, which helps us to develop deep awareness of how to perform a skill effectively, bringing us onto aspect 2. In the associative stage, the learner's internal feedback and kinesthetic sense begin to develop. Now, your kinesthetic sense is your awareness of your body's movement and position in space. It's that sense you get when you know you performed a skill correctly or completely wrong. For example, at this stage, the basketball player will begin to sense when he's made a mistake before he's seen the outcome. Your intrinsic feedback is the mental feedback you give yourself on how you performed. So, if the basketball player performed the layup and missed, the intrinsic feedback might tell him it was because he didn't jump high enough. This is where the differences to the cognitive stage come in. In the associative stage, the player really starts to be able to understand and improve the movement while they do it, as opposed to where they're just thinking about it really hard beforehand and not being able to spot errors as they go. This also explains why it's called the associative stage. It's where the player starts to associate the way they're moving with either a positive or negative outcome, so they can start to understand what works well and what doesn't. The two go hand in hand. As you gain knowledge of your performance from your kinesthetic sense, it is translated into intrinsic feedback. The third key characteristic of the associative stage is less errors. The learner will make less errors than they did in the cognitive stage, and the errors will be less frequent. This is because the athlete's improvement. So, maybe instead of stuffing up every second shot, improvement. So, maybe instead of stuffing up every second shot,
Okay, I don't know why. Let me find the video. I downloaded it. Probably didn't download the full video. It was on YouTube, so okay.
No link is there?
Yeah, I'll probably have the link here. Steven Dominguez there, sir.
just
Go back.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find from where I downloaded it from.
And I think if you can add it on the slide itself, then it's not.
Yeah, I added on the slides, that's the problem. And I deleted yes, the day before the
When you were
full
reviewing
video.
it.
It's okay, I'll find it. And this is obviously you can see it's like it was a summary
It was
of
very less.
what we discussed.
I think it's just the last part which has not got.
I will find and send to you because it's good. It summarizes well everything that we said. Sorry about that. Okay, so the next is what I want to do is, so now we discussed before, we watched the video up to associated states, okay? It's just the autonomous left, but obviously we spoke about this. So just to, before we watch the video, so as a task now, as an activity, we will watch 3 short videos, and I want you all together to just tell me what stage you believe the learners are on this video, okay? Just to recap, okay? Cognitive states, high number of errors, visible thought process, okay? A lot of thinking, as it was in the video, okay? And 0 internal feedback, okay? Very frequent stops to think and correct themselves. Okay, a cognitive learner, a lot of time thinking to correct themselves. As an example, would be a young player learning to dribble for first time. Okay, often bouncing the ball inconsistently. So as I said yesterday, if you first looking at the ball, one bounce here, the other bounce there, and you're losing control easily. Okay. And struggling to control direction, so you can't control the ball. Associative states, their errors become fewer, more fluid and smooth movement, increased consistency, but still needs thinking and focus and feedback. Okay? As an example here, player dribbles the ball with more moderate success, but now still they can't dribble the ball consistently with their heads up, might need to look down sometimes, and start beginning to integrate some more dribbling and passing, for example, complex movements, and stuff like that, or shooting over dribble. Autonomous states, nearly perfect executions and comes automatically with less thinking, less error, and they start incorporating some more, tactical and technical elements in more higher level, rather than just mechanics. So now they can start thinking, okay, now I have my defender. So it's not just much mechanics, but it's about stepping back, finding balance, and shoot the ball based on where the defender is. Okay? And you can see here, so cognitive associations, so attention required, practice time. So the more, practice time. And there is a research that says that from this level to this level, you need to practice a skill 10,000 hours. Okay? But that's research in let's say, the mean overall. Which means that someone, and that's why we say someone is, talented with something. So for example, Federer reached the autonomous stage when he was 13 years old. Okay? Well, that's one example out of whatever. That's why he Federer. Okay? And it's like, tennis. Another thing you might find is, for some kids or some players, not autonomous to cognitive, but autonomous to associative or associative to cognitive, you will find that one kid might be associative in shooting, cognitive in dribbling. Okay? And that's a little bit getting complex with your training plan. That's why step principles are very important. Because what are you gonna do? Because the kids progress, learn in different ways. We're gonna talk a little bit later for developmental ages as well, rather than the chronological age. Some kids, develop in a different frequency,
समझा
different.
हम लोग का सीधे हम लोग क्या करते हैं फिर पूरा पीछे लेके जाते हैं बराबर है अगर स्टेप प्रिंसिपल अप्लाई करें तो शूटिंग में पीछे तो शूटिंग में ही आपको ऊपर ले जाना है ड्रिबलिंग अच्छा है पासिंग अच्छा है तो शूटिंग को सबको पीछे लेके जाने की जरूरत नहीं है तो इसलिए स्टेप प्रिंसिपल अप्लाई करें
Yeah, that will help you
to reach
for someone to reach towards that side rather than slow it down, because one kid might be, as I said before, an associative learner in terms of shooting, because maybe practice more shooting, or maybe that's how the brain works and learn in this way. So learn shooting easier than, dribbling, for example. So that means that when you teach dribbling, you will need to treat them, differently. Now can you see how the image becomes clear what to do and how you do it? That informs your decision making as coaching, how to coach, and what information, what feedback you need to give based on them. But first you need to identify them, and you need to recognize. So now let's go to the first video. What do you think? The first video. What do you think? Which the learners of the first video? Associated. Why?
But the red one is, I think, cognitive. The red one, the tall guy. He is not.
I would say early associative. Not cognitive because they were able to do different types of dribbling, pivoting, and different more complex things. But if you saw him, sometimes he was doing it, sometimes he couldn't. Sometimes he did the reverse layup, sometimes he missed and stuff like that,
हर बार perfect नहीं कर रहे हो बीच में क्या कर रहे थे बीच में
I would say early associative. Others, they were more towards middle associative, they were able to do it. I won't judge the coaches thing like this because it's,
not required
I don't know what he was trying to do up to that point. It's maybe those highlights that you do once, you score once, and everybody says wow, and then other 10 times you still the ball, but you got the ball stolen. But anyway, that's a different story. And that was the point. But so definitely associative, some of them early associative, stuff like that, Might be associative in dribbling, maybe cognitive in terms of something else. Okay? okay? I don't think we need to watch more for that. This one, what do you think about this? Cognitive, okay? Why?
Because they are sitting down and getting over.
Exactly. So the drill is probably they just drive or from one side to the other. They need to go around the corner, then they have some small balls there, so they need to continue dribbling, pick up a ball and go back. Some of them holding the ball to go there because they don't have the hand-eye coordination, they can't do two things at the same time. Some of them just, you see how they bounce the ball, lose control, and stuff like that, okay? So it's obvious that, they look the ball, they look the flow, the time they can't dribble with their heads up, so definitely going good. Okay, and what is left? Okay. This?
They are smooth. He's smooth as with dribbling.
He's
smoother with dribbling.
He's consistently doing it.
But obviously you can say he's a professional, he's an ex-NBA player, European champion last year, everything like that.
Played for
Okay.
us.
What state? Autonomous. So you can say he doesn't have to lose. So he has two different shapes of ball. His eyes are up, okay, look the ball, he scan the floor and then at the same time, okay? So autonomous states.
He has moved to Turkey.
Huh?
He's
He's
playing
still-
for some Turkish club.
No, he plays in Panathinaikos still. He's enough.
But he was with Lakers like
Yeah, a few years back, yeah.
2-3 years back.
Last year they signed him.
Fenerbahce.
No, Panathinaikos.
Partners.
Signed him halfway through the season, won the EuroLeague, and now he re-signed, so he stays there for another 2 or 3 years. So he's good. Yeah. Good. Okay, great. So, obviously now you can distinguish between the stages. Okay, plan for a break. I think, are we okay to carry on, or you want a small break?
चाहिए क्या break? Continue कर दो.
Yeah, okay, good. Now, moving from the skill acquisition to motor learning. Okay, motor learning refers to changes in motor skills as a result of practice, experience, and feedback. Okay, key components: builds muscle memory, supports error correction and skill refinement. And as a positive environment, research shows that enjoyment and encouragement improve skill acquisition in youth. Okay? So now, from skill acquisition to motor learning is, let's say, the glue that sticks together everything from cognitive to associative and autonomous states. Okay, so obviously we answered that question before watching the video with the kids. So in which stage of Fitzer-Forsman model, okay, the model of Fitzer-Forsman is the cognitive associative autonomous, are children not, okay? And then the second question is, obviously this is cognitive, okay? We'll discuss that. When we say child, what do we mean though by this, okay? So, consider chronological age versus developmental age. Chronological age is the number of years and days you've elapsed since birth. So this is your, our date of birth, how old you're, and blah, blah, blah. Okay? Developmental age, though, refers to the degree of physical, mental, cognitive, and emotional maturity. Okay? And relative age refers to the age variation among children the same age group. So resulting from the different birth dates. So this might be, you have some kids that they are the same age, same, let's say, age year group in school year, okay? But there's a difference there, okay? Some of them develop quicker than others. Okay, how developmental age affects sports now? Okay, 13-year-old. Do you know this guy? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So him and Ricky Rubio and Rudy Fernandez started from Badalona, and it was I think they have 1 or 2 years difference between them. Ricky was the youngest player, I think, to play EuroLeague or in this senior level. And 16, 17 years old, they were main players in the EuroLeague club back in 2000s. Okay? So 15 years old Ricky Rubio. So his technical side was 15, social side was 13, similar to his chronological age. Psychological was 14, physical though, it was young, okay? So, and this is something maybe for later on for talent identification, okay? There's a lot of research. They use it now, some clubs, football clubs in the UK that they want to be ahead of others, using a lot of research, and there's a university in Cardiff has a research team researching around chronological and developmental age. They call it biobanding. Okay? Biobanding.
Bond and
Banding, yeah. Bands, biobanding.
Okay, banding.
Okay? There's some research there, very interesting. And now what they do is they've developed a league, some Premier and some elite clubs, football clubs in the UK, and they play because all the youth leagues are based on the age, chronological age. Now they've developed an experimental league, developmental ages. It's unofficial, they do it as friendly games, but for kids that they believe that for some reason they have some elements that
So they
are
for
above. Yeah.
CDT.
Barcelona did this with Messi. For 6 months, degraded him to play with he was under 16s. They asked him for 6 months to train and play with under 14s. And then it sometimes took him one step back to go 10 steps ahead. And then Messi in 2 years played in Champions League. Yeah? But there's okay, I don't want to confuse a lot of this, just as an information to have it. For now, keep the information that within the group, you might have some kids that they are same age, chronological age, but in terms of developmental age, they are even younger. Okay?
रिलेट कर पाते हैं ना इसमें कि कैसे कोई बच्चा आपका कुछ चीजें अच्छा रहेगा, कुछ चीजें थोड़ा वीक रहेगा, कुछ चीजें एवरेज रहेगा.
And that purely because it affects their way of learning and their
Even
way
हम लोग भी ऐसे हैं.
of processing information and receiving information. Okay? Good. So as a sports coach, these are important because chronological age, we said refers to the number of years and days. Okay? So again, the definitions, but developmental age refers to the degree of physical, mental, cognitive, and emotional maturity. Okay? So it is important for you to understand those because it affects your decision making and feedback with the players. Okay? So you need to, and next we're going to see about information processing, how they receive, process information, input, processing, output. Okay, what they can do. And those are the 4 pillars. So technically, psychologically, physically, and socially. Okay? Kids develop in a different pace across those 4 pillars. Okay? It's the 4-corner breakdown, how I call it. Okay? And as I said before, a number of models. There are different models that do this. I chose this simple one. So processing objective, information, attention, processing work happens in their mind, encoding, storage, retrieval, response, okay, how they execute the drill, and then feedback, internal and external feedback. Okay? This now is encoding, storage, something stays in their mind, something doesn't. Okay? And then as they progress from cognitive to associative and autonomous, okay, you can see that this process becomes from inconsistent and very cognitive to more consistent and more, cognitive, conscious to unconscious. Okay. So again, information processing involves observing, seeing what's going on, deciding, and executing. So again, input, see, think, decision, and processing, and output, so performing, okay, executing the action. So observing the cues, Okay? Deciding the next action, process in their mind, and then executing the action. Okay? And then again, this is the read and react, we say. But this again is different to cognitive learners, it's different to associative learners, and different to autonomous learners. Okay? And why this matters for coaching? Because attention spans and reaction times in young people differ a lot from adults. So clear and specific cues are essential. Okay? Think about the cognitive learners, a lot of less span of attention, longer reaction times, okay, for kids. So you as coaches, as instructors, so more clear and specific instructions and information to them is key. Okay? Does it make sense now?
Yep.
Good, some practical examples. So reaction drills, so maybe you can ask them to have some visual cues, color-coded codes to improve quick decision making. So you can say, or I've got now with the technology as well, have you seen the reaction lights?
Yep.
Okay, with the cones, back then you have, the cones can't change color, but you can change what they will do on that cone. So you can say now, okay, I have 3 different colors of cones. When you go to the green cone, you do a crossover. When you do the red cone, through your legs. When you do the blue cone, behind your back. Okay? With reaction lights, you tell them in the past, previously, but by the time they reach that spot, before, they know that, okay, first crossover, second this, third that. Because the cones can't change colors. But even more challenging with the lights, when they reach that, they need to decide quicker. They need to react because that might be, this time might be red, next time might be blue. Okay? And then you can see later on, if you have both, maybe for cognitive learners, you can use cones. Maybe for associative learners, you use the lights. Okay? Or you have the settings to change them depending on the level. Okay? Then some auditory cues. You might say every time I clap or every time I shout something, you do something. Okay? Again, to encourage quick response and coordination. And then small-sided games and reaction drills have been shown to improve information and processing your sports. Again, so now with this, you can think about cognitive, associative, autonomous. So how you can differentiate your training plan and what you do based on the learners that you've got. Okay, so associative, a little bit more complex, more mixed things. Cognitive, simpler, more straightforward and directed. Okay? Okay, so again, humans like computers have finite limits on the amount of information they can process and the speed they can deal with information. Okay, this knows as information processing capacity. If more attention is needed than is available, then the person becomes overloaded. Okay, that is one of the reasons why we don't want 8 and 10 years olds doing complex things, because they can't process them, and then if they can't process them, what they're going to do, what you said yesterday, they can't do it, they stay out. Less confidence, self-conscious, I can't do it, I'm not good for this, I'll never do it, and then give up. Okay? As children develop, they learn more sophisticated ways of dealing with information. It's how the human brain works, yeah? With information, and then they can cope more, because they can process more information at once, and more quickly then. It becomes, more fast. Okay. So what does this mean for you? Okay, so new experiences, new skills can overload the participant. What is new to them? This can lead to response based on emotions. Okay, so for example, a player attending a new basketball club for first time. So let's say now we have a new center, new to basketball, or maybe let's say we go to the academy and you have a kid that new environment comes from 100 miles, 1,000 miles away, comes there with new kids, new environment, it's a shock for them, okay? Okay. And player start learning new skills, new center, first basketball, first training session. Remember when you try to do something new or start a new job, for example, how you feel? You feel, first day you feel a little bit out of your comfort zones and stuff like that. It's exactly the same thing, okay? Everything is new, and that can, high emotions and you can react differently. And that can be overloading for some people, okay, or more overloading than others. Okay? So now let's identify what things you need to do to ensure that the information process system is not overloading. Consider one thing, I give it away. Yeah, okay. So 3 things to do this. Okay, one is consider to break the skill down. If you want to play 5-on-5, for example, don't start 5-on-5, start from 3. Okay? Stripping back distractions from the environment. Okay? Distractions from this means, okay? From the environment. Okay? So again, when you do something, there are different factors that they can affect. Imagine that different factors affect learning. If you eliminate one stress or an external factor from the learning environment, might make that deal easier for the learner. Okay? Can you think of an example of this? Even in, I don't know, any level. Think about what is environment? What would be an environment for you? When you do a training session, what is the environment?
Equal.
Huh?
Equal.
So you are on a basketball court and you are surrounding from something, okay? Yesterday, think about it as kids yesterday. So the kids yesterday, they have 10 coaches around.
Yes.
Is that how they usually have? No. So it's a different environment for them yesterday. It was a different environment. Okay? For a coach, again it was a different environment. If you usually do a training just you, and then you have 10 coaches around or 20 new kids around you watching at you, it's a different environment. So this causes distractions. Okay? But when in high level, some coaches what they do is they're preparing to play a game in front of 10,000 people. They know that they play an away game and they know that they play in a very loud stadium. Okay? But they need to practice. Okay? And then some coaches put on the speakers, sounds from arenas and they put them in a full volume. Okay? And it's chaos. So you do a training without fans, in an empty stadium, an empty arena, normal training session, but with full volume from the speakers, like you play in front of 10,000 people. What they try to do is they try to make the players adjust to the environment that they're going to play on Saturday. Another thing a lot of people do is, let's say, training times. Okay? Let's say if a team trains 10 in the morning, day in, day out, but all the games are 7 p.m., 8 p.m. So their bodies learn to train 10 in the morning, not 10 at night. They're learning to eat and sleep. Okay? Maybe that affects them. Okay? So that helps. Imagine that training 1 week with speakers, and that involves coach talks to you. It's different talking to you and listening when it's silent. It's different when it's loud, because you can't communicate. You need to use different kind of communication. Learn how to focus and where to look the coach or your teammates, because it's different environment. Change the environment, and when you change the environment, change the distraction and the stressor, change everything. Change the information that you process and the way that you react. Okay? And then you might become overloaded because if you're not used to it, okay, and different distractions.
can impact on that process, and then you become, so you have more information from different factors in your mind to process, and then you can't process them like you usually process them because something changed, and then you become overloaded, and then you won't be able to play, okay? Or some other coaches, they might use different complex things to create that environment, to prepare, and that's more towards the autonomous stage. Okay, is that clear or yeah? What's your now? Because you have your notebooks, yeah? You don't have to write anything, no way.
What you have done, we have been that moment, like what you said before, environment. You played over that time, like for a crowded area, you played over there.
Say again, sorry?
What you have done, you have been in situation like that situation. When you played.
Professional gamer.
Yeah.
Like he is asking you, like, have you been in a situation where it is fully crowded?
Crowded.
stadium?
Oh yeah.
So what you have done?
It's nice.
How do you overcome that? Pressure.
In Greece, it used to be, yes, then it's different. Because some crowds, you might play in the UK, we play in terms of 4,000 or 5,000 people in London, for example, and it was quiet. It was not silent, but it was, they were singing, they were doing, it was different. I played in front of 1,000 people, and the stands were 2 meters away from the court, abusive and spitting on you, and swearing about your mom and stuff like that. It's different.
You wasn't Hassan movie only, that also they showed that. And Anthony Edwards keep on abusing.
Yeah.
The player is ordinary.
Yeah, different countries.
Even
different,
even NBA it happens, but NBA they have that problem.
No, it's not acceptable. Obviously, it's not right. Or in some areas, other things might be even the lighting on the court. Some courts they have different lights, the different things. What I say, one is might be they don't have, the heating on and stuff like that. In professional level, they have specific criteria. So let's say EuroLeague, you have to have specific temperature on the court, and if you don't have, you might be able to pay fines and stuff like that. Or if you do this consistently, you might be in trouble. So in top level, those things they try to standardize those things so they won't have any competitive advantage. I think, but this is just elite level, okay? And anything else that I
like San Antonio or I guess Lakers were playing, air condition went off.
Yeah, imagine now you're in this level now. So to use an example, in your level, use another example like you said before. So now you're all trained in outdoor courts. Next month the kids will go and play in the indoor courts. Okay? For them it's gonna be different. Okay? Hopefully it's gonna be a positive difference though. Because for me, if you go and play outside and you change direction, you might be able to change direction on the floor that you don't have good traction. When you go to the wooden floor, you'll find a lot of difference. Might find it better, it might be to your advantage. Some kids might feel that they will, oh, what happens now? Hopefully it's gonna be easier. Okay? For most of them.
अभी हम लोग जो आकांक्षा सिंह वाला तो इंडोर कोर्ट वैसा सोच के
Or the balls.
balls are would be leather balls.
Yes, so some of the balls they don't have even grip. Some of them with the dust and no grip. If they shoot for that ball and they'll be able to shoot it, with proper technique and stuff like that, start scoring. When they go and play inside with no dust and nice grip, with good balls, with good nets and nice nets, it's going to be a big difference for them. Yeah, some of them again might struggle.
Even the hoops also.
Yeah, some of them might find it easier. Okay?
Because you find, because none of the hoops are similar in India.
True.
Every hoop is different.
For me, it was shocking in the UK because when we started training, a lot of schools and stuff like that, they have the backboard is wooden. So it's not about only the shooting that looks different. It's about when you do layups or the hooks and stuff like that. When you use the backboard, it's smoother. With the wood absorb the shock.
You can
Even back in the days in Greece, all the new nets, the new systems, the backboard is very stiff. because it's very, I don't know, because it has this shock absorber for the dunks and stuff like that, it's very strong. When they change some new arenas, when you do the layups, we do normal layups, and the ball was going bouncing and then going over. I was like, what the hell? You know, you need a little of training to adjust your shooting. But again, for an autonomous and late associative, early autonomous stage learner, this might be 5 first minutes to do 5-10 shots to get used to it. For a cognitive learner, might not be able to play that game or might not be able to make any layups on that day.
Because warm times are important.
Because they can't process why is happening. You know what I mean? Yeah? Still now, because when I go and play, obviously my shooting now, let's say, is okay, autonomous shooter, okay? Learner, that skill. When we go and play some games in different arenas, I will spend 10-15 minutes to do some spot-up shooting, warm-up, to get used to it, so we'll be able to play. The days that I go late because I play in a local league and I work and I go straight to the game, if I don't have much time and I arrive late and I play with little warm-up, my shooting on that day is not that good. Okay? I've realized that when I do 50, 60 shots from different angles, my shots to get used to it and get familiar with the shot, I'm much better at shooting during the game. I guess the other way around. Okay? It still works. It's about adjusting. But again, think about the stages. How this might affect a young person who is still cognitive learner. When you change the environment or the information or the stimuli and everything. Okay? So this now, it's a nice, it's a fun game to give you an understanding, even us as adults, how we can process information, what we can remember. Okay? So think about input, processing, output. Okay? So we will have an image in the next video, the next slide, sorry. Okay? So we will have 30 seconds just observing, okay? And then 30 seconds to write down, then 30 seconds pause, then another 30 seconds to write down what we remember. Okay?
ठीक है 30 सेकंड आपको वीडियो देखने के लिए 30 सेकंड कुछ नहीं करना है उसके बाद लिखना है कि आप क्या लिख के क्या है
So this part, okay, are we ready? Good. So you have 30 seconds from now.
अभी खाली देखना है
So don't write anything down, just observe now. Okay? No cheating. Okay? Now 30 seconds to remember. So wait, don't write anything down. Okay, and now 30 seconds to write down whatever you remember. Okay, stop. Scores.
8.
8. Okay.
9.
9.
7.
that is not right to write 30 seconds
So, okay, so 8, 9, 6,
7,
7, 9, 5,
7,
8. Okay?
Remember more, but writing time was less.
No, it wasn't less. It was 30 seconds. It was
30
bad.
seconds, yeah.
I gave you more time on observing though, because I clicked it live. Okay? So in the short-term store, memory holds 5 to 9. Okay? You were on that rate, so 5, 9, yeah, around that. Okay? For a period of 30 seconds. That's a proof. Okay? These items will be displayed by incoming ones, you know, unless they are maintained in the short-term store, okay, by repetition. If you do this, you know, repetitively, then you will remember them. So what methods did you use? What strategies did you use to remember them? When you're observing,
क्या strategy था जब आपने image देखा तो
Easy images.
okay?
Easy images, like small words. Like used to daily things. Daily was
Cycle,
ambulance, building ships,
So you relate.
so categorize so you can carry, yeah?
spiders and all that.
Okay. Did you all use the same method? Okay. What did you use? What strategy did you use to remember?
क्या था आपको याद करने के लिए आपने क्या कैसे सोचा? वही लिखा यार बट कैसे याद किया?
आपका मेथड क्या यूज किया?
ये कैसे ये किया?
आसान चीजें जो थे वही था।
He use easy stuff to remember.
Yeah. Or someone might say 6, 7 times the same word. During the 30 seconds of pause, let's say you categorize them, then those 30 seconds while you're waiting, because if you don't think anything that 30 seconds, you will lose them. Okay, or you might remember just sporadically and spontaneously some. But if you use some, okay, let's say five times this word, then you might be able to remember all of them. Okay, but different people use different ways to do it. But then, so there is a research found that young people do not spontaneously use repetition. They don't do rehearsal strategies. Okay, so the coach must ensure they encourage the learner or the players to go off and practice within the session. Okay, sometimes repetition, you know, rehearsal. That's why I'm saying, even yesterday I said to the kids and I've said to everybody, even my players and my team, study the game. Don't go after you finish the session, don't go home and come back the next day without even thinking what you did yesterday in the session. Okay, because of this. Because you can only hold very, you know, in the short-term memory, something that you learned today, you can only hold some bits. Okay? If you repetitively do the same, then that will become, you know, stay in their mind as the mid-term or long-term store memory. Okay? And that happens with the skill acquisition and skill development. Okay? So that's why cognitive learners, more repetition, more information, just simple information. That's why I say, okay, this day we focus on this skill, we give information on this skill, because if you then tell them, okay, dribbling, shooting, passing, focusing on developing all of those skills in the same day, they won't be able to hold anything in the end. Okay? Because they can't process them. Okay? And then they can't use rehearsal as well, unintentionally. So deliberately you need to force them to do repetition and practicing. Okay? So decision-making characteristics of children. Okay, a variety of decisions must be made during the performance and learning of skills. Research has shown that children to be slower than adults in making both simple and complex decisions. Okay? In sports, decisions must be made quickly, and it's important that coaches help children recognize which response is the best in each situation. That's by feedback. So stop the session, correcting them. Okay? I sometimes can be boring for the kids. I prefer to slow down because nobody pushes you, nobody rushes you to finish the curriculum or to finish, you don't have a time frame with this. And you shouldn't have a time frame because it's not a race. Some kids learn slower, some kids learn faster. But again, with step, you can help those that go faster to keep developing, those that get slower, instead of discouraging them and then not be able to catch up with the faster learners, or the young people that are a little more developmental age-wise, they are a little bit more advanced than others. Don't discourage them, don't slow them down. Be able to develop everybody. So because they need to be able to make decisions quickly, so they need to correct them, learn how to do one thing, break it down correctly, so they can start doing that more, with higher speed, and then progress to more complex things. Okay? If these stimulus response pairs are stored in the long-term store memory, okay, decision making time can be cut and attention focused execution of the response stored. So what we try to do is from the short-term memory, store memory, to the long-term memory. Okay? So they can have that decision maker process automated in their mind. But that requires training. That training requires from a cognitive level to become associative and autonomous learner. And that needs time and that needs training. Okay? Now this is a little bit clearer the picture in terms of what we do with cognitive learners, associative learners. That's why we said that focus on one skill when you do, let's say, beginners. Okay? When you do intermediate now, on your intermediate curriculum, most of them are kind of finishing the cognitive stage and become autonomous learner, but on the very early stages. That means that some of them might be like this, okay? And might be like this because might be shooting here, passing there, dribbling here, and so on, or they're inconsistent, go back and forth, okay? Second year intermediate, maybe they are now, okay, autonomous learners, and they're progressing, okay? Okay, that's why it's important. And then, once the response has been selected, so let's say now, input, processing, so now my brain decided the response, okay? Must be organized and carried out. The extent to which children use feedback to control ongoing movement depends on the speed of the movement and the capabilities of the performance. Okay? So, and again, the skill acquisition that reflects to cognitive associative. So cognitive, less capable to make effective decision, associative, more capable to process information quicker and effectively. Okay? Feedback can only be used during the action if the action itself is slow. Okay? So, and that refers to the internal feedback. Yeah? Internally, if the more cognitive learners, they don't have any internal feedback. Associative learners, okay? If you ask them to perform something slowly, they will be able to auto-correct themselves. If you ask them to do it faster, they won't be able to do it. As they reach the autonomous stage, that becomes now, okay, speed decision making, okay? So there are some studies between 5 and 7 years old showing that the older children were much more efficient in using internal feedback. And that again proves the point with the cognitive association. Okay? So children relevant feedback. Children tend to rely heavily on visual information. Okay? We said before that there are different types of learners, but most of them, rely on visual information. Okay? They need to see a lot of things, learn by seeing. Okay? Often more interesting in the end results and how far, for example, how far juggling goes rather than the release or the technique. Okay? Kids are fascinated about the dunk, not about doing plyometrics to be able to jump and dunk, for example. Okay? Another research shows that children are far less accurate than adults in detecting errors in movement. Again, that proves the point before, because children, because of if you match the 10,000 hours of training to become from cognitive to associated, children can't be, because they don't even have the time to work that far, okay? Unless it's a failure or some, random talents that they might have in specific skills. Okay? But it's more like in overall, children to be less accurate in detecting errors because they are cognitive learners. Okay? Therefore, in learning correcting techniques, it's valuable for the learner to know that the action feels like to be used as a basis for correcting performance later on. Okay? So they need to learn to correct the technique. So and that again, you need to stop them, correcting them, show them visually what is again and again and again the correct technique, because this is very valuable for them in the future to be able to auto-correct themselves. Okay? Okay, I think we answered this already, so what do you think? So what do we say? Cognitive? Has there any internal feedback here?
No.
No. Here?
Yes.
Yes, but again, inconsistent. Here? More consistent. Okay, great. Okay. And selecting like a coaching style, this is a little more like as a guidance, depending. So the style you're talking about, consider the children's thinking and learning abilities. Okay? Obviously, we now know the categories, but then, as I said, some of them might be fluctuated between autonomous cognitive, okay? And then now, hopefully, because you all develop that understanding, you will be able to read the kids, okay? As outlined, the ways in which children attend, perceive, remember, make decisions, and control movements are very different, okay? Coaches develop preferred ways of coaching their sport, okay, in our case, basketball, and there's a danger that they might focus on the activity and forget their coaching children as well. Okay? Coaches tend to be more comfortable with styles where they are in control and they make all the decisions. Okay? However, giving children a greater role could increase their learning. So, okay, think now cognitive, associative, autonomous. And tomorrow this will make more sense because we're going to talk about leadership styles as well. Okay? So, if it's a cognitive learner, okay, you can't give them autonomy, a lot of autonomy, because they can't internally process anything, they can't correct. But towards the associative stage and autonomous stage, you can give a role or you can give something to the kids, because, or ask them questions or ask them to do something for others, because they have that ability to internally give feedback and correct things. Okay? So firstly, by giving children a chance to learn what they see as important, results in greater motivation. So they're feeling more motivated, okay? If you give them a chance to learn. So by adjusting your training style and your training methods, you're gonna give the kids that motivation that they need to keep learning. Okay, secondly, they can set goals congruent with their confidence level. So boosting their confidence, better dreams, better goals. And then you break it down as a coach, how you can help them to achieve those goals. Okay, thirdly, they will engage with the practice in more thought and learn to evaluate and correct errors in performance. Through taking more active roles in learning, gives them the opportunity to become self-learners. Okay? And again, from cognitive to associative to autonomous. Okay? But then it's more about self-confidence, motivation, etc. If you choose the correct training style, correct way of teaching, okay, you support those three things that they are very, very important for their development as well. Okay, and then as a summary, as a coach, it is important to remember the states of the formation processes that your players are at. Okay, consider what feedbacks might help them and what cues, okay, they need to assist their development. Think about cognitive, associative, and autonomous learners. Okay, that was. I know it's a little bit okay. In the end, especially with the information processing, I don't know if it was a little bit more complex, but hopefully now you can link everything to the three stages of this was the most important thing to be able to understand today, the three different levels, to be able to see your players and categorize them, see how they perform, see how they're doing, which stage they're at, and then think about what coaching, how you can react and adjust and adapt your session to improve and help them the learning on that stage. Okay, which we're discussing about today. I think I'm very confident that you have that understanding. I can share all the slides as well, and you have the video as well to go back, to refresh and remind us something, But as in overall, if you have this clear in your mind, will guide your session planning, will guide your feedback while you're doing training, okay? Because when you teach beginners, you need to plan a little bit differently, you need to coach a little bit differently, and then intermediate, the year one intermediate again a little bit differently, because they are back and forth. Second year intermediate or more advanced, differently again. Okay. There's a lot of resources on the internet as well. You can go and check and refresh your, use as examples and stuff like that. Okay. But as a structure in your mind, I think from today you have it all clear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions? No? All good? Yeah. Okay. So again, if you think of anything,
इवन हम लोग का सेशन जब चलता है तभी भी डाउट रहेगा तो पूछो या नोट करके रखो बीच में जब हम लोग ब्रेक्स लेंगे या ट्रांजिशन रहेगा तो हम डाउट्स आना चाहिए भले वो आपको लगे कि ये पूछेगा तो कैसे होगा या ऐसा कुछ नहीं कुछ भी रहेगा पूछो और क्लियर करो जब ये आपको ही फायदा देगा और कुछ नहीं पूछने से क्लियर होगा.
And tomorrow we're going to talk about leadership styles.